Hey there guys, welcome to Stanley Chess, glad to have you. I just crossed 1850 rapid on chess.com and I wanted to share the game with you because there's some really cool stuff going on in this game. A piece sacrifice, just crazy stuff. We're gonna look at some really cool lines. I'm wearing my avocado blanket, I got my hair slicked back because I just took a shower, we got my lizard in the back, and let's get going. So I'm playing with the black pieces here and we have e4, I'm gonna go for that Caro Kann every time. And d4, there we go, we have the advance and I play this c5. Nice tricky line. People don't see it too often. People are probably used to this bishop f5, which is the main move. In fact, if we look at the opening explorer, bishop f5 is played almost 26,000 games in this database, whereas c5 less than 7,000. So that's why I go for the c5. It's a bit trickier. c3, okay, let's develop our knight. Trade this center, and we do this in order to leave a weakened pawn on d4 that I'm going to try and target throughout the rest of the game. And we have bishop g4 developing, pinning the knight, putting pressure on the pawn. So white decides to develop the bishop to e3 to defend the pawn. It wasn't under immediate threat of being captured because the queen could take, but I could be threatening something like if this, then there's like bishop f3, and if you take with the queen, you drop the pawn. So you'd have to double your structure like this, and then, you know, queen b6 might be coming, or something just like e6, solidify this, and, you know, this is just a possibility. But bishop e3 defends the pawn on d4, and e6 solidifying my pawn chain here, and freezing white's pawns in the center, and I'm going to try and target them. So I develop with check so that I can, you know, keep my initiative going here a little bit, and you see white is not posing black any problems. Black is the one calling the shots. After this trade, pinning, right, white responds. White responds to the check. White castles, I castle as well. And white decides, okay, I'm tired of this bishop here on g4. We're going to play h3, make a choice. We can either go back like this, or we can trade. Now, what is my game plan? What have I been saying? I'm targeting the d4 pawn. And what is defending the d4 pawn? The knight on f3. So if I trade the knight on f3, well, the d4 pawn just lost a defender. So now it's a bit weaker, which is going to be good for me. So we have knight going to f5, putting another attacker on that pawn and pressuring the bishop on e3. And my knights are doing a very good job of pressuring the center and just white's position in general. So we have the knight back to e2, again, responding to my threats, which this is not even a threat at the moment. It's not an immediate threat anyway, because we have 1-2 defenders and 1-2 attackers. So, you know, the pawn is defended. But white decides, I'm going to try and maybe reroute my knight or something and just add a defender to this pawn. So what do I do here? I play rook c8. Computer says this is a bit slow and I should instead play something like queen b6, immediately putting more pressure on this pawn, and also like the b2 pawn if I move the bishop back. Or I should immediately play like bishop e7 and say, well, now my bishop on b4 doesn't really have a purpose, so let's reroute, maybe try and play f6, and just, you know, something. Maybe go here and try to trade off the light squared bishop. But instead I play rook c8. Still fine. I mean, it gets my rook to the open file, continues improving my position very slowly. And a3. Okay. Let's go back. The reason I go back to a5 is because if I go back to e7, which, you know, is fine, I was like, yeah, you know, like, try and go for that. Or I can go this way and put even more pressure on the d4 pawn, which we have. We have b4 from white, and I thought this was not great for white because a bit overextended, yeah? White pushing this, you know, there's not a clear game plan for white, and it's just kind of like unclear what white is trying to do. You know, bringing the knight back is a bit passive, and then pushing like a3, b4, and yeah, these pawns are going to be pretty weak. You don't have any pieces over here defending them. What is the light squared bishop doing but staring at a pawn? What is the dark squared bishop doing but being a tall pawn? And, you know, the d4 pawn is just, it's going to die. It's just going to die. So I bring my bishop back to b6, add more pressure to the d4 pawn, and then bishop g4. Okay. White was annoyed with my knight on f5. and thought, okay, let's get rid of the knight. Let's either make it retreat or take it or something. And white really wants to double my pawns like this. Like if I do nothing, if I play like, I don't know, queen up, then white is probably going to do this. And I don't want these split pawns. So that's just not going to be good for me. So I could play like, oh, let's say like knight e7. So if they take, I can take with the knight. And we could have a slow game like this where, you know, some pawn pushes on the edge of the board and pieces, you know, I could double my rooks on the c-file and just kind of slowly improve from there, keeping my knights nice and solid. But instead, I see this really, really cool idea. And before I share it with you, let me know your thoughts in the comments. The YouTuber plug. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts. Why you like the game of chess? What was your favorite part of this game? I'd love to hear from you, and I will reply to all of the comments down below. That's enough of a YouTuber plug, and let's go back to the game. Had to throw it in there somewhere. All right, so my idea. Knight takes e3, f takes e3, and a sacrifice of a knight. Knight takes e5. A brilliant sacrifice here. It's not even the best move. The best move is to play like queen g5 and go after, you know, the pawns this way and furthermore set up this idea, or to play like h5 right away, which, you know, gives up a pawn, but then you get queen g5, you hit the bishop. The bishop has to, you know, move, or the knight could go here and defend, but then you're still going to play knight takes e5. This is crazy stuff, right? Because if you do this, check, boom, and you pick up the knight. Beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. But instead, I sacrifice right away with knight takes e5. Look at that. The point is, you take, and I take with check. But not just that. It's not just that I'm getting 2 pawns for the knight and giving a check. That's not quite enough. I have to look a little bit further. So back in this position, I thought, okay, I can take, and then after, hold on, let's draw arrows. Takes on e5, d takes c5, bishop takes c3, king h1. I have queen g5. Queen g5, putting pressure on the king side and threatening to win the pawn on e5, which you actually can't defend. And I thought, I've got a passed pawn on the d file. I'm going to win e5, have 2 passed pawns connected. I'm going to bring my rooks, and I'm going to push and win. So, oh, man. Okay, knight takes e5. Spoilers. Oh my goodness. Okay, I can't even, oh my god, I'm just spoiling the entire game, aren't I? Okay. Let's take a breath. Knight takes e5, d takes e5, bishop e3, king h1, queen g5. Just like I was saying, right? And now here white thinks for a while, because white is like, oh crap. I got messed up. I can't defend that pawn. Oh no. So, what do we have? Well, white can hold on here. White can hold on with something like this. You know, I win the pawn, try and trade off the rooks, right? I can push g6 to get a nice light squared pawn complex here to, you know, counteract the fact that I've traded my light squared bishop. Bishop could go back. I can play this, even more light squared control. I can push even more light squared control. Look at this. Oh my gosh, this domination here of the light squares. And then the knight could, you know, drop back. This is just a sample line. I could double my rooks on the c-file possibly, trade off the queens here. And okay. Oh my goodness. Like if this were the position, look at this. 3 connected passed pawns in the center of the board. Every single pawn on light squares. With a dark squared bishop. This is beautiful. This is just beautiful stuff here. I have 7 pawns. I've only given up 1 pawn, and white has 4. White has no pawns. This is ridiculous. None of that happens. Let's go back. Instead, white doesn't know what to do at all. Literally has no idea. And pushes a4. Like, white literally spent 3 minutes on this move. I just didn't know what to do, so just pushed a random pawn. But this is really bad, because I get rook c4. Rook c4. What is the idea? Well, obviously I'm attacking this, right? That's not the idea. That's like a bonus. That's like a bonus idea. The main idea is kind of hidden, and white falls for it, or doesn't see it. White instead pushes b5, thinking, oh no, my b4 pawn is under attack. Let's push. Let's push b5. But do you see the move? Do you see why it's minus 2.5? Rook takes g4. Yeah. Now, is that a sacrifice? No. Because if you take, it's checkmate. Literally made in one, which is really cool. He pushed this, and I was like, don't I have rook c4? And if I take, then it's mate if he takes back? Yes. You can't take, or the game would be over. Just like that. Look at he split. Now, white sees this at this point, doesn't take, instead pushes this. And I'm like, okay, let's just go back. I just won back my material. Now I'm up 2 pawns for nothing. And I got a pass pawn. And the king is weak. And I got all my pieces over here. This is great. This is great stuff. So the rook tries to come in, pressure my bishop a little bit, but I win the e5 pawn. Now I'm up 3 pawns. Wowza. Okay, the queen goes over. And now I'm just pushing. Now I'm like, okay, you're not resigning? Fair enough. I could be losing this game, right? My chess is unpredictable. So let's see. We have knight jumping to f4. Do I take it? No, because then you lose the rook. I mean, I'm still fine here because I get like bishop takes, but you know, it's like, I don't know if I really want all this, you know, the rook and the, I don't know if I really want to go for that. So instead, I should also like think about this idea of doubling my rooks. I was a bit worried about, you know, the pressure here on the f7 pawn. And also like if I were to like move my queen back, then there's this, which is really annoying because if you take, you just get mated. And if you don't take, well, it's a fork. So that's upsetting as well. So you don't want to do that. Instead, I just move my rook up to c3 and say, okay, now what? So the rook comes over. Okay, let's move my queen out of the way so I'm not pinned. The knight jumps over. There's no threat there. So I'm just going to start pushing my other pawn. And he pushes a pawn because he doesn't know what to do. And here I find the best move here, which is bishop d2. And that hits the rook. My idea was I want to trade off a pair of rooks, simplify the position, make it easier for me to push without any counterplay. I didn't like the counterplay. So rook here. And now I do have this, which I actually didn't see. The idea being this, right? You win the queen and you've just got these going and the rook to help support. I didn't see that. Instead, I just went for the rook trade and then bring my bishop back. And then white goes in for a pawn, but this is not going to work. Why is it not going to work? Well, d3. d3 GG. Yeah, that's if you take, you can't stop the pawn. And I'm going to make a queen. There's literally like no way to stop the pawn, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, I find that move and white resigned here. Yeah, it's just bad. I mean, like something like king g2, and I'm just going to play like g6. You can try this. Don't care. King goes up. Now I'm attacking the knight. And I can go here. Whatever. We're just going to go here and kind of figure it out, you know? It's a bit tricky though, but I mean, f5 is coming. Takes, the rook is going to get open, right? So it's only a matter of time before these pawns get pushing. Yeah, so this is a pretty good game. Let's do a quick run through of the game here. We have a Caro-Kann, advanced Caro-Kann with e5. I play c5, a nice little tricky line to pressure the center. And I weaken the d4 pawn here by trading in the center nice and early. I bring my bishop out to pin. He defends the pawn. I push e6, solidifying my position. We give a check, and here we go. We get castles, and we're kind of into the middle game here. We're 11 moves in. We have bishop takes to weaken the d4 pawn even more because the knight was defending it. So we're going to remove the knight from the board and put more pressure on that pawn with the move knight f5. The knight drops back, trying to add more defense to the pawn, but I just bring my rook, improving my position, and we have a3, b4 from white, which is a bit of an overextension, and now I have even more pressure on d4. Oh my goodness. So the bishop comes out trying to get some kind of counterplay, weaken my pawn structure here, but no. I find this nice sacrifice idea with knight takes e3 and knight takes e5. Look at that. Takes, check, and queen g5. You can't defend this pawn, and white doesn't know what to do. Pushes a4, so I play rook c4. The hidden threat is rook takes g4. If you take, it's checkmate in one, so you can't do that. Instead, white just pushes this pawn. I go back. Cool. And then I take the pawn on e5 for free. I start pushing my d pawn, and it's only a matter of time before the rooks fall off the board. And this nice move here after queen takes b7, d3 ends the game. White resigns. You can't take because you can't stop the pawn. And if you go back like this, well, I'm just going to go here, kick you out, and the game is going to be over nice and quick. So, if you made it to the end of the video, I'd just like to thank you. Really do appreciate it. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this game. Yeah, I have a chess tournament coming up next week. I'm making recaps of my tournament games, so make sure you check those out. There'll be some videos floating around up here somewhere. Have a great rest of your day.